what do you think about transgender children? Because this whole argument about people shouldn't be told about LGBT terms until they're like teenagers and not as like a little kid, and it like will affect their brain, even though like you're asking them, do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend when they're like 5 years old?
Yeah,
like
totally.
That's just like the norm a lot of parents do. Not every parent, but I have heard that before, and so I was wondering.
Do you want this to camera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that really. Oh, said what do you like on camera? Do you want to go first?
No, come on, just be aware.
I feel like the attack on trans children and that idea that children in general shouldn't be have access to knowledge about LGBT people and their lives I find it hugely offensive, because it's almost like these people are. It's a grown-up thing. It's like, because I think people automatically assume that being LGBT is like just like a purely sexual thing or like a fetishy thing, and so that it just,
and that people can be influenced either way by the knowledge of these people that exist and have always existed throughout time. We both grew up in a very cis heteronormative society environment where we were constantly being told about and taught about heterosexual identities, cisgender identities. It didn't work. We were not influenced in any way, shape or form, and I think the same goes for if you're talking about other identities, LGBTQ plus identities. There's no way that people can be influenced. What would happen, and which is proven time and time again when we talk about things at an early age, identified earlier, which is what's happening now. So, whereas I wasn't introduced to the word gay, I didn't really know what that meant, and when I learnt of that word, too late for my liking, but when I learnt of that word, it was like, oh, that's me. And if only I'd had that realisation earlier on with the right support around me, things might have been different, throughout my teenage years. And it's allowing people to maybe recognise themselves or their family members in what they're taught and what they're told about. That is a positive thing. It greatly improves outcomes for our young people and our children. So why are we peddling this idea that it's dangerous for them? You could ask that question.
It's baffling to remove a section of society from what we teach young people about. It's offensive. It is offensive, and it's wrong. And I think we will look back as a society and be quite appalled that this is happening, that it ever happens. So, I think if you are of the opinion that young people shouldn't be learning about particular minority groups, you need to be looking at yourself.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we're taught about sexism and racism, but we don't really talk about anyone targeting gender or sexuality, because people think, oh, it's just a phase or just something that like the young people do, when like people of all ages are LGBT, from the beginning of time till now. It doesn't really change.
Exactly.
Sure, people are conceived by heterosexual means, but there are other ways of having kids anyway, by adopting or having IVF. There are other ways of just having a man and woman intercourse, child.
Exactly.
Like it's not that simple. A lot of people think cats and dogs like their own children. You get crazy women in their 80s having like 20 cats, and they're happy. Nothing wrong with it.
And that's the thing. People come in all shapes and sizes. Families are diverse. No family's the same. To represent one small section of that diversity is selfish.
It comes down to, there has to be a reason why people are doing that. So there's a bias there about what we want to be presenting to young people and children about what is right, and that's the heteronormative cis normative way. It's like, well, yes, there may well be lots of different identities in different families, but this is the normal one. This is the one that we're going to keep peddling. But I think most people have just had enough of that, now.
Yeah, I think it's a small minority that feel that way now.
Yeah, definitely. For us, I think it's been really important. I think when we set up Proud to Be, we were always kind of conscious about like why it was us that set up Proud to Be and what it all means. And I think in terms of our history, we have a very supportive mum, and a very supportive brother. But in terms of like our dad's side of the family, we don't see them anymore. So we've kind of, and we never came out to grandparents because they died before we came out. But it kind of feels a bit like we've had a little bit of a hybrid experience of being accepted and not being accepted. So in a lot of ways, when people have those negative experiences, they might think, understandably, that everybody has those negative experiences and no parent, carer, guardian, grandparent can be trusted. And we know that's not true. And it's, luck of the draw, I guess. So I suppose I still have hope for people, even if they're very adamant that they can't accept the person in their life.
The advice we'd give to parents and carers of young trans people is listen to the young people, to your young person. Try not to project your own values, your own childhood experience onto your young person. If they've opened up to you and are talking to you and want to tell you who they are, that's a really good sign. Receive that information well, and I know there's an adjustment and you might need support, but I think it's just really important to keep those lines of communication open and just support them. Support them. They're not your enemy. They're telling you who they are, and actually what they need is unconditional, unwavering support.
And finding out how you're able to do that in the best way, because like Maya said, there is often an adjustment. And that's kind of one of the reasons we've, as an organisation, we're launching a families group this year, because we realised that there are so many parents, carers, guardians, etc. that want to support their trans young people but don't know how to, and often rely on their young people for emotional support, for guidance. Or they might go on the internet and find information about whatever, it might be binding, it might be surgery, whatever it is, and often that information is inaccurate. So, seek out information that you can trust, and I know that can be difficult, but reach out for support to organisations like Proud to Be, or other parents or carers or guardians that have been through the same thing. There are some online forums that are really, really useful for a lot of people. Again, it's about being selective and using your gut instinct around those.
And there's groups like ours, Proud to Be. We see lots of parents and carers come along to the different social groups we have. And I think that, and there'll be other organisations that, that welcome parents and carers as well, or have specific groups for parents and carers. And I think it's just, as Max said, do your research, find the support that will help you to support them, and go from there.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yay.